Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda, Cities ABC and Open Business Council series. We are a fast-growing YouTube and podcast thought leadership channel focused on profiling the global leading inspiring people, CEOs, authors, technologists, academics, and people that are framing and creating a new vision for our world, and especially looking at solutions, how we can actually get better results for the problems that we are facing. In this channel, we've been actually highlighting ideas, products, inventions, software, books, and solutions to the multiple challenges and opportunities we face in our cities and our society. But we face especially, and we actually profile special people that are inspiring, people that are doing fantastic projects, and people that are trying to transform our world with all the areas and all the challenge from fourth industrial revolution to blockchain, AI, and all the frontier technologies that are disrupting and as well accelerating our evolution as humanity. These podcast series are produced and distributed on citiesabc.com and openbusinesscouncil.org and syndicated on intelligenthq.com, fashionabc.org, edgefink.com and tradersdirect.com, our associate partners and as well media platforms. So today I have someone with me that well, first of all, I'm a huge fan and I admire a lot. So Elise Quevedo. So Elise is an author, a tech global thought leader, a speaker, advisor, and a social digital media storyteller. And storyteller is a good description of her work as one of the leading ladies in social media worldwide, but leading influencers as well, and social media experts, that has been voted as one of the top 100 entrepreneurs to follow on Twitter, and is ranked among the top 2% most viewed profiles on LinkedIn, and as I would say as well on Twitter, and the top 25 Global She Hero Award winner in 2020, which is great to have a positive thing among this crazy year. So known as a digital ghost queen, I like the context that gives a bit of mystery. For our behind the scenes, Elise has been inspiring people all over the world, has been working with major brands, both in technology, but as well in big festivals and organizations from Austria to Turkey, and as well a lot of different things from Australia, Asia, Switzerland, so very broader global background. And one of the things that I see that I really love about her work is, first of all, the passion that she puts in her work, but as well, this capacity to tell stories with these digital tools that we have, and actually that have been becoming more and more powerful for these new stages of humanity development. She's as well a global recognized expert in the areas of AI, digital transformation, disruptive technologies, and enterprise and digital innovation. And she's been being an advocate for all the areas of digital applied to our society, to our self-development capacities, and as well in terms of personal growth and leadership. And of course, she's been working with global brands that don't need the explanation, but she's been very close to brands like Amazon, eBay, PayPal, Huawei. So I could say a lot more about her. She has a fantastic profile, but I wanted to speak. So welcome to our series, Elise. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dinis. It is definitely my pleasure, and thank you so much for that incredible introduction. It's an honor to be here with you today.
Well, the honor is all mine, and I'm very honest about this. So I want to start, as you know, I always start with the background, but I know in yours that your story is very compelling because it's quite original, and you come from Spain, but you've been in the UK for most of your business career, digital career. So a bit of that background that made you one of the most leading ladies in digital in the world. So I would like to hear that story.
Okay, so I don't actually have your typical straightforward formal business education or trajectory like many of the people that you have interviewed, because even what I mainly do for business now, as you mentioned, social and digital, did not really exist until just over a decade ago. But what I am is an example that you don't have to have things figured out since you were a child or a teenager, that opportunities are not just for those that come from money, as I do not come from money or even a happy, supportive childhood. Actually, I was abandoned as a baby who got adopted and then abandoned again by her adoptive father by the age of 2. I am proof that you can change your trajectory later in life, regardless of your past. And that is okay. You can have multiple passions and adversity and have different chapters in life. And that's a beautiful thing, because you should never be ashamed of your past or where you come from, because we all have a story and it belongs to us, no one else. And what we do moving forward is what always matters. So the one thing you will find out, Dinis, as you know, is that everything for me has been a very organic journey, and everything that I've done has played a big part to what I do now, because I'm a person that has always given 100% of everything that I do. I am very inquisitive. I love continued learning and skill developing. So what I want to do is I want to share a few things that I actually have never shared publicly before. So I guess that you are going to be the first person that will have the honor of having the Elise beginnings stories, at least on this video, because I am working on releasing a lot of this information and much more on my next motivational book to be released this year. But not many know some of this background that I'm about to share. So Dinis, when I was a child, from the age of about 5 or 6, I said that I wanted to be a telecommunications engineer, because the influence that I had around me was very academic driven. But I was also into sports since I was like 1 year old. I learned to swim before I could walk. I mean, I was born in an island, so water is like second nature to us. And I was a swimmer for 11 years. I loved the sports. I found a passion for it. And I ended up doing competitive sports in volleyball and tennis. And I had also done figure skating and tried out for regional basketball. But my mom, due to an IQ test that I had as a child, which had put me at the time in the genius bracket, wanted me to go the academic route only, not the sports one. It is, you know, the story of typical parent who wants a child to do more than they could ever do because they could not afford it. So they want their child not to do the same mistakes, but sometimes, as we know, that works against you because they do not ask you what you want and they map out a life that is not yours. So at 17, I left my home country to go to the UK for 6 months to do some studying. But those 6 months turned into a year, 1 year turned into 2, and now over 2 decades later, the UK is still my main residence, even though I do travel a lot. And when I decided to stay in the UK, that was detrimental. As you mentioned, my business career started in the UK. And it was that huge change. And I did it because originally I wanted to continue sports first and developed education later. So I was part of the LTA at the time, the London Tennis Association, but I also had to start work to support myself and pay for my trainers, my club fees, because my family did not want to support that. They only wanted to support my academic route. So at such a young age, not having any support and being completely on your own was very challenging, especially as a female. And sometimes it's scary because if you cannot ask your family, who are meant to be the closest people to you for advice, guidance, or support, then who can you ask? When you're in a country that is not your home, everything is new. And back then, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google Maps, there were no smartphones. I got my first cell phone when I was 19. Anyway, I got work on the way of my training. So although I was very good, I was unable on my own to support everything. So I decided to continue work. I ended up doing tennis as a hobby more than a profession. Fast forward to me working at one of the busiest airports as a branch manager for a multi-million-dollar family business in my early 20s, which also was an achievement as I was their youngest branch manager. Everyone else was in their 30s and 40s. Also working at one of the first ever internet cafes, which was called, what was it called? Oh yeah, Simply Internet. And I was showing people how to use their credit cards online, how to book flights with these new technologies that were emerging. And I did that for about a decade, but within that decade, that's where I spent a lot of my time, my spare time, working on my education, and gathering more skills, because I knew that what I had done, getting into the workspace from such a young age, was born out of, I must do this and I have to do this, versus I do it because I want to. So once I had that mindset, I was able to start back up with courses with Open University, Harvard distance learning, and Oxford College learning. And that included leadership and management courses, psychology, and business studies. And even now I'm actually starting a level 3 sociology diploma, which is about 200 hours. And that's because I love to understand people better. And it helps me deliver better thoughts and insights with the world. And of course, during my time at the airport, I actually didn't stop sports. I was such a fanatic at the time and spent so much time at the gym that everyone said I should get qualified. So in the UK, I got a personal trainers and a fitness certificate by Focus Training and YMCA. And I took dance and fitness part-time to continue supporting myself because I loved it. And that also led to acting and being features in magazines, but that's for another story, and we will talk the whole day. So during that time is when I found personal development, which truly hit with me, and it was a game changer for me. It was a huge critical point that turned my life toward actually what I do today. Personal development got me through a very hard time in my life, Dinis, because I left the fitness and sports world, not because I wanted to, but actually because of a health issue that made me gain some weight. My body shape changed and it took me down. And not physically, not because I lost my stamina or anything like that. I am still very active physically, but at the time, it took me down mentally. It broke me to see my body change, to see friendships go away, understand what a shallow world that we live in. So personal development took my mindset and attitude to new levels of understanding of who you are as an individual, how to truly be happy, and what value truly means. So I started to travel the world at 19. By the age of 25, I had already visited over 30 countries. And with personal development, I actually spoke at some stages, with my first one having about 500 people in the US. Fast forward again with when I wrote my first book, Creating a Kick-Ass Attitude. And after I was done, I had no clue how to promote it. So I got into social media. I researched everything I needed. That was my entry to the social and digital world at the right time, just before its boom, because people started to ask me if I could do for them what I had done for myself, which meant, oh, you have all these social accounts and you have this presence and you've created all these posts, how do you do it? So at that time, something told me this was going to be huge. And I wasn't wrong. Social right now is bigger than ever. I was very fortunate that very early on, within my first year, someone saw something in me, took a chance and took me under their wing. And I traveled the world, just speaking on stages from Australia to Asia and Europe, like you mentioned. And in 1 year, I got as much experience as some people who had been doing it for a decade. That was the feedback that I was getting when people was asking, how long have you been doing it, Elise? So they said that my knowledge was exceptional. And for me, this is where the background comes into play, because I wasn't new on a stage or having business knowledge. But many of those past skills, all of a sudden put them together and they became an asset for people's skills, for business to continue talking. And then that is what kick-started my career in social and digital. From then, I have focused most of my time on this, learning and developing skills in the social, digital, and technological space, which is how then people started to recognize me as that global thought leader and influencer. I did not give myself those titles. It happened organically, which is the best way, as you know, especially for business, when other people say, hey, this is a global thought leader or an influencer. And I personally was a lot more public in my first few years. Then I made that choice back in 2014, 2015, that I personally did not need to be out there all the time or as much anymore, that I actually enjoyed working behind the scenes. And that is where the Digital Ghost Queen name or nickname comes from working behind the scenes a lot. And I wanted to work with less brands and clients for longer terms, instead of working with hundreds of projects for shorter periods. So I enjoy helping others thrive and help them be on the limelight and share their stories. But of course, a few times a year, I still speak publicly. I do a few interviews like we're doing right now. And of course, share my thoughts and insights on my social channels every week. So now, Dinis, you understand why I said at the beginning that I don't have your typical straightforward business education or trajectory like many of the incredible people you are interviewing, but it's for sure interesting. And it is the cocktail of these various skills, the discipline that I learned from sports that has helped me with what I do today. I have amazing highlights in many of my chapters of life to get what I am today. And I cannot predict where I will be in the future, but that's also a beautiful thing. But the one thing I can tell you is that I will never stop enjoying whatever it is that I do.
Well, I'm humble, and I think it's particularly. I think people don't understand how complex your background is, and I respect that more now knowing that, and I'm very grateful that you share that with me and our audience, because I think you talk about it with so much positive and as well so much inspiration, but it's not a simple task, and especially you went through 3 levels of rejections, and as well you still created even in your young adult years or during your teenagers, you again had to do everything on your own, which most of people don't understand how complex it is, especially in new country, new language, a lot of new things. So I think the part of the personal development comes as well a lot with the personal esteem, or I would say personal energy, because you have that energy. So I want to touch that because one of the things I've been finding in my business and as well relationships, even in family, is that you can teach everything to a person that has the energy and the willingness to learn, but a lot of people don't have this energy, and I think that's why you are so inspiring, and as well that's your career took you to the levels that you've been achieving. But I would like to hear about this level of energy that you've been always committing and how you deal with that, because I think although this is not a personal developing series, I think that it touches everyone, because business is more and more the capacity to go from challenge to challenge, and a bit like Churchill said, going from failure to failure and become stronger with that. And I think it's sometimes you forget that these difficult moments that makes us stronger and makes us much eager to go the next step, because if you are outside of your comfort zone, you can actually do much more powerful things. So I would like to hear about how do you see this, because and as well what has been probably some of your personal mottos or inspirational things that have been leading you to continue.
Okay, well, I think, to be honest, this is exactly why I wrote my first book before digital, the Creating a Kick-Ass Attitude, because of everything that I had gone in life. The one thing that I learned is that, of course, you can have many people out there and you can listen to a lot of tapes and read books and videos and get inspiration, but it has to come from within. You have to actually learn to be happy with who you are. And to be honest, I never got to do that till my mid-20s, till my body shape changed, because I was not judging, but I was making preconceived notions of things or people, because I hadn't learned as yet to value first yourself inside to then be able to shine outside. And what we see many people is that people tend to believe that they're only as good as what people see. And I think this is the biggest mistake, especially now with social media influence and how much criticism there is online. When we do things, a lot of the times the first question is, how many likes will I get? Will they like it? And the first thing is, do you like it? Do you enjoy what you're doing? What do you actually enjoy? When you actually, people truly know, you've just said, oh, you're so passionate, you have this energy. If all of a sudden I went, yeah, when I was a child, Dinis, at 5, I decided I was going to be a telecommunications engineer. Yeah, I love the sports. Wow, that was so great. Man, I would put myself to sleep. If I cannot even believe what I'm saying, how on earth is the audience or anyone you talk to going to believe? So I think the first thing, many years ago, another thing that I didn't share, but back in 2008, with one of my first mentors, I was very lucky to be on a motivational cruise in the US with some of the top speakers. I don't know if you heard of a book called The Secret. And I was with these people such as Bob Proctor and Lisa Jimenez, who was my first ever mentor, who wrote a book called Conquer Fear and Don't Mess with the Princess. And I truly learned to be an individual, not from the outside, but from my mindset. What do you value? What do you value in people? If you are blind, if you cannot see, you see things in a very different way. And then I started to think differently. I started to see I need to love myself. I need to love the work that I do. And I can say no to opportunities. I can choose who I work with. I don't have to work with 200 people because that makes me better. I can actually work with less and still be the best. And this is what society doesn't seem to understand. Since we're little, we're taught that you need to study a career, you need to have a job, you have to have a family, and you have to have a house. And if you don't have that, you have failed. What happens to the people like myself that didn't have that trajectory? Does that mean that I failed by the time I was 17 because I had to go to another country? Do I fail because I wasn't born into a normal family and I was passed on a few times before I found the right place? There are so many things that society tells us, oh, this is what needs to be done, but they never listen to actually themselves, because our influence on average, there is a saying that a former mentor of mine called Jim Rohn used to say, you are the average of the 5 people you talk to the most. That could be in person, through digital, through text. And that is because we value the opinion so much that we forget about our own. Back in the day, part of the personal development, I was in network marketing, and it took me 7 years to truly be successful because I quit because of what people thought. And then I thought, hold on, do they pay my bills? No. Why on earth am I listening to people that are not me, that don't have an influence in what I actually do? But we like to judge, or society, not me, I don't like to do that, but you know what I mean? Society likes to judge, or sometimes it's based out of jealousy. I don't want them to be better than me. Sometimes, and it happened to me as I rose in the digital world, many people were friends and mentors until I became at the same level. And then, oh, we don't want her around us because she takes limelight away from us. And for me, that is wrong. So you have to learn to be that individual. I have values such as honesty, integrity, trust. They're huge for me. And I go through that everywhere. But unfortunately, we live in a society that is dog eat dog. And you need to be street smart as well, which is why I'm very thankful that I was in the UK from the age of 17. I also learned very hard lessons, but they made me smarter. So I have that mixture of, yes, I do have intelligence and I can quote many things, but at the same time, I'm street smart too. So you have to combine both, and you have to understand, I am an individual, I love what I do, and it doesn't matter what others say as long as you are happy with what you do. And I think this is huge to have that passion, because then what you do, you end up doing what I do, that you're happy sharing your knowledge, that it doesn't matter what the rest say. The only opinion that matters is you. And then the rest will feel it. People will work with you, like you mentioned, because of the energy, because, oh my God. And of course, after that, you do need to back it up with value, with influence, with knowledge. You cannot just be a happy person, otherwise you would be a clown. And that's a different job description. So, but that doesn't take away from being a professional person that is passionate, that has values, that offers values to the world, but because you truly believe it, not because of others around you tell you that that is what you need to do.
I love that, and I think it's very important, because that voice inside is the most important thing. Whatever you are, a superstar or not, that doesn't mind, because you can be very happy in your normal life. And I think this is, so I want to touch precisely because your book is about that, and I love the title, Creating Kick-Ass Attitude. So can you tell us about the book? The book is available on Amazon Kindle, and I know that you're writing a new one, but just an overview about it.
Actually, it's this one here.
Fantastic.
That's the latest editions, very old. That's why I'm launching a new edition. But it's basically, it teaches you to have the right attitude in different fields. So for example, at the moment on LinkedIn, I'm launching a video every Monday, which is a summary of each chapter, because one is dedicated, for example, number 1 is about sometimes it's good to think like a child. It is about, again, learning that we always kept moving forward as children. It's not about being childish. It's about that determination that if you wanted to grab something on the top, you will climb up no matter the danger changer underneath. Then another part is learning about attitude in relationships, and relationships in general, and also attitude towards work, your goals and dreams. Mindset is all about understanding that attitude comes first. Change your attitude, change your thoughts. Change your thoughts, change your actions. Change your actions, change your results. Simple as that.
No, it is a summary very well about as well. How do you see all of these different things? So coming back right now to, so in your career, you mentioned a lot of different stages of your career, from the sports to working in the airport, actually multiple tasks, and some of them quite senior, and you are still very young. So can you tell us, and then of course you become a social media, a keynote speaker, and as well an ambassador of big brands. You're working with some of the biggest brands in the world. So can you tell us some highlights? Because I think sometimes people look at influencers just like especially the stereotype of the fashion and all these kind of things, but they forget the work that is behind that. Because and as well, one of the things that I want to highlight is, it's for everyone listening to us, it's very difficult to get the quantity of followers that you have, to keep them, to manage them, and to keep the engagement. Trust me, I speak from that angle, and it's something that, independent of how much efforts you manage on this, is keeping it. It's the biggest effort. So I would like to hear about all of these iterations about your career, and as well how the stage that you are.
Sure. And of course, the first thing is that, yes, I was very fortunate that I toured the world at a time where social was rising, and I was around people like Travolta, Schwarzenegger, and of course, then my followers rose quite highly before I went the B2B way, which again is more behind the scenes. But it is a little bit hard for me to answer this one because, Dinis, I come from a place, as I've just said, of gratefulness. So each opportunity that I have ever had to collaborate, for me, is a highlight because I always enjoy it to the max. From the small little guy in a little town to the big multi-billion-dollar companies. So for me to answer this, Dinis, I want to redefine that word influencer, because you're right, it is not just Instagram. This word's meaning has changed, especially in the last few years, as we know, but this comes from many decades ago. And in essence, an influencer or a thought leader is a person of influence, but you don't need to influence millions of people. This is what I truly want people to understand. You can be a leader in your local community and influence people. You could literally influence just one person who in turn becomes a game changer, who changes the world, for example. How many times do you hear the sentence, "You changed my life," or "Something that X said to me made a huge difference in my life"? That is influence. And why am I saying that? Because it is relevant to one of my highlights of when I validated the influence I had on others when I got into the social and digital world. Traveling as an independent advisor and consultant was new for me, as everything that I was doing before was more face-to-face, but in a more traditional way, before the likes of Zoom and WhatsApp and Skype existed. So I had traveled the world already, as I had mentioned, Dinis, and spoken globally before. I was considered a global thought leader and influencer, but not by consulting as an individual, based on my knowledge and know-how of social and digital. It was based on other things. So I remember how I got my first ever international client on my own, who was a millionaire entrepreneur and was living in the Middle East, but at the time, but I met him at a conference in London. So we took this group photo with multiple speakers at an event, and I made a comment that he should share it on social. And then he told me that he didn't have social accounts. Then that got us into a conversation, and a little bit of a joke started that I should help him. Then he asked me to send a proposal. I sent a proposal, and within that, I mentioned that I would have preferred to have an in-person meeting first to talk about everything, face-to-face, and then the rest would have been done remotely. But as he was already back in the Middle East, I said that we could either do a phone call, or jokingly, I said that he could also fly me over, and he chose to fly me over. So I went to Dubai, and I spent a few days in an incredible villa by the Palm, getting to know more about the background of this entrepreneur, what his goals were, and we set up all of his channels and initial strategies. Due to NDAs, I cannot say who it was, but now this individual is a very well-known person on social channels, and to this date, nearly a decade later, he still uses many of my ideas, which are now being implemented by some other amazing teams. And a few months ago, he came back to me asking if I would be available, as he said I was the one who knew him better and had set up everything and needed a revamp of a few things for his team to implement. And for me, that is long-term influence, because at the time I was only focusing on doing a few strategies and short-term contracts, which is why someone else took over implementation. But for someone to come back so many years later, it shows influence. Plus, of course, we're still connected on social channels and we talk from time to time. And this will always be a big highlight, because even before I started on this field, people could already feel my knowledge and my different way of approaching things, which is based on that diverse background that I shared with you, and much more that I didn't get to share today. Another highlight, which I briefly mentioned earlier, and you also mentioned, is I did a global tour that included Australia, Thailand, Switzerland, UK, Philippines, where someone also saw that I was more than just a social media person at the time, and gave me the chance to speak on his tour as his right-hand side. And I got to meet some incredible people. I remember Thailand as an example. This is a huge highlight. I was due to speak about LinkedIn, and they had given me a slot of about 2 hours, which was the biggest. And that is because we had only flown in for a couple of days to this week-long mastermind retreat before heading to the Philippines. But the audience was full of very successful entrepreneurs. I mean, some of these guys had been around the internet strategies since its inception. So many of them, Dinis, were like 20 plus years older than me. And I thought, what can I teach these people? So what can I share that they don't already know? And this is where that kick-ass attitude comes in. This is where that mindset of course I can, I do have knowledge. But as always, it is not so much about the specific knowledge. Sometimes it is about the different perspective that you have, even when you may have the same knowledge. And right after I finished, I had some of these guys that I was kind of a little bit freaked out come up and tell me that they had never thought about it that way. And I got many thank yous for opening their eyes. And for me, those type of situations showed me what influence is all about. But even then, I was yet to be named an influencer as we know today, because that is a term that has skyrocketed, as you know, over the last 3 or 4 years. So for me, they're highlights because they played a very big part in my growth in this field, the digital and tech. And as you know, now you know a little bit more that my journey has been very organic. So after traveling to many countries and working with many individuals for short term, I decided to shift and not work with so many at the time, because I love to see the journey and I love to see people understand how to do things. So from a very involved implementer, as the years have gone by, I now focus more on the advising, consulting, and overviewing of projects, sharing knowledge and collaborating with brands by telling their journeys, because that is now my next chapter of my journey. I mean, I have been very fortunate to be involved in projects, to learn from individuals such as John Travolta, Arnie, Mr. Ken from Dragon's Den, Michael Johnson from Walt Disney. He was the president of Walt Disney for 17 years, sorry, CEO of Walt Disney. And yet you mentioned some of the companies that I've been very lucky to work with, such as Amazon, eBay, PayPal, or Huawei. And from 2019, let me share a couple of highlights. One was in Paris, where we met, for Digital Night, where I got to share a stage with Huawei's France president. And I was allowed to do this finale, which you never see at this kind of events. And I think this story is going to be really cool for people because not many know it. And it was aimed at students. So I wanted to do something that was fun, that was different, and we got the audience up on their feet. It was an auditorium with over 1,000 students. And I remember that everyone at the production team, they were not sure if they could approve what I wanted to do, because this is not what they did. And of course, $1 billion company has many approval channels. This is not something that you go, hey, Elise, I have an idea. Oh yeah, let's do it. No, as you know, Dinis, the approval process goes from many heads. And I remember being at my hotel room and getting gazillions of emails and calls just to approve one song that I wanted. And in the end, for legal reasons, it was so late that we had to change. So then we had to go back and forth with what I wanted, because they needed to make sure they changed my song. So I needed to play it a million times to see if it would work. Then the rehearsal came where I met the France president, Mr. Welianchi, and where I was to share my vision of this finale after our panel, after our tech panel with good information. And he ultimately had the yes or no based on my explanation. And I'll be honest now, Dinis, for a few seconds, even I doubted myself, okay? Like, no kidding. Because I thought, I'm trying to disrupt what they normally do. Will they still see this as professional, but cool? Because this was not for CEOs only or decision makers, even though there were CEOs and entrepreneurs there, the target audience was students. So to get them hyped and excited about technology, I wanted to give them pure Hollywood entertainment, big climax idea. And until 24 hours before, I still didn't know if we were gonna go through it or not, but they liked it. And if you remember, they said yes. And part of the video recap that they have, the footage they have with the audience repeating some of the sentences and giving a high five and the smiles on people's faces, that was priceless. And I will never forget that, because I created that. And even this story, many people might watch videos that they have from that event, and nobody will ever understand what it took to create those 90 seconds at the end of that panel. I mean, I have done something similar before at events such as Pioneers in Vienna, which, as you know, is one of the top 10 tech conferences in Europe, but they're used to mixing things up. Huawei is more traditional. They're Chinese, you know this, and they have, of course, been changing this year. We have seen it on their social feeds and how they have embraced the fan side a bit more. But for me, Huawei took a chance on my idea, a vision that they had never done before. And for me, it shows that when you do have a track record and you have built trust, sometimes even a billion-dollar company will take a chance on something that may sound too out of the box, but that is true influence. The second highlight would be at the end of 2019, the Brussels 5G Assembly, where I shared the stage with Topher White, CEO of Rainforest Connections, and Simon Peplensky from Facing Emotions. This event was European focused. It was a room surrounded by 200 policymakers, connectivity providers, vertical industries, NGOs, all coming together to get a better understanding of technology, how to tackle global and societal changes, and how could European countries be pioneers instead of being followers. And sometimes it's nice to step back and do have conversations with the people who can actually make a change. So for me, as I mentioned at the beginning, I see a highlight in everything that I do, because I am living that moment, that project, that conversation. Think about it, Dinis. We have tried to get together to collaborate for a while, but time just flies. Yeah. This year, I feel blessed that you asked me to be a panelist at your event at the Open Business Council. Today, we're doing this amazing interview where I'm sharing a few things that I have never shared publicly before as well. So for me, that is a highlight too. And for 2020, I also have I've had amazing video chats, and I am thankful for each and one of them, everyone who took out time out of their busy schedule to share their expertise with me. And to finish off the year, my highlight this month, apart from this video with you, of course, that's definitely one. It's going to be a keynote during Turkey Innovation Week, which is, stay tuned for these dates, December 25th and 26th. I mean, last year the event attracted over 40,000 people. It is one of the biggest events in Istanbul. This year, as everyone else, they had to postpone a couple of times, as it was meant to be in April, then September. It would have been my first ever face-to-face keynote in Turkey, but I am glad to say I will still take part doing it virtually instead. And it's a huge honor to be able to share some of my insights with the Turkish world. And it will be a great way to finish the year. And I could share many more, but otherwise we do need the whole day. So maybe I will share more next time. As I said, I can always find highlights.
No, it's beautiful. I love the passion you put on the things, but as well the level of I think sometimes you push things, of course, with the trust because you want to engage with people. And I think that's, I think, one of your best gifts. And of course, that's part of your public persona. And as well, that's why you are the personality and as well the influencer you are. But one of the things you have as well is that you have um, the title of Digital Ghost Queen. So I know that is the one behind the scenes. So you have the one in the face, the screen, which you are fantastic, but you have as well this. So you've been, like you mentioned, working with business, individual C-level, executives to Hollywood, and a lot of different personalities. So can you tell us a bit about that work? You told a bit, but I would like, because sometimes people see even big actors, big personalities, or big CEOs. There's always a lot of people. So that title, the Digital Ghost Queen, I think it's important because you are not just ghost, you are very real. But I think it's interesting to have that title as well.
Yes, so yes, I actually do love that question, because many people see it, but they don't ask. Or for example, the last time somebody asked me was about a week ago, and I think you saw it. I gave a public thank you on my LinkedIn because a lady from Greece who was watching one of my online courses in a platform, she had purchased the course, and then she contacted me on LinkedIn to say, hey, I'm enjoying the course. I want to know why the Digital Ghost Queen name. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. So I had to answer that. So I can definitely do that again. But this came from working behind the scenes. The same as you have a digital ghost writer. Digital ghost writers are people that write the books, but you never know it is them who wrote a book. So especially celebrities use these, or CEOs, people that are very occupied and very busy, they get somebody else to do all the hard work. So it's also happened with me. But the nicknames throughout the years also changed. As always, I have adapted, I have evolved in my knowledge in the digital world. And my first ever nickname was actually, I feel like a child now, because it began with Twitter Girl. So like that was very cool at the time. I was Twitter Girl because everything I spoke about was Twitter, Twitter, Twitter. Then as I got better, then they went, is Twitter Queen now. So I got upgraded to the Twitter Queen. And then of course, once I left just Twitter and I got into Facebook, LinkedIn, technology, and learning more about what is digital in general, I couldn't really use Twitter Queen or Twitter Girl because I was more than just an expert on one platform. So then that evolved, and then eventually it was in Macedonia. Actually, I did a little event, and somebody went, sometimes you're like a digital ghost queen because you're like a ghostwriter, but you're not, but you are a queen in what you do. So then that became the digital ghost queen. And that's, like you said, there are many celebrities out there. There is a lot of work, for example, in the UK, many people might know Mr. James Caan. He was on Dragon's Den. Everybody knows him from HR. And what many people don't know is that I was actually behind a lot of his work on Twitter when he first started. And he ran a platform with the former Prime Minister in the past, which was Startup Loans UK. Well, guess who was behind the first strategies on that platform? The Digital Ghost Queen. Why? Because many of these people are too busy to do it themselves. And sometimes even the PR companies that they use to run their platforms don't have the knowledge. So what happened to me? I was being hired by a lot of companies, PR platforms that didn't have a clue how to set up social accounts, digital, the strategies. And I ended up doing all the work and somebody else took all the credit. But now, based on my background, Dinis, you will understand I am not about taking the credit all the time. If the work that I do helps somebody else shine, then I'm more than happy with that. Of course, as long as I get paid. I'm not going to do it for free, but you know what I mean.
No,
so there is a lot of people. Like I said, when I worked with Travolta, for example, I don't know if you remember, when was it? 2014. There was an event called An Evening with John Travolta, and he came to the Palladium where it was John Travolta, and they asked him some questions, and then there was a lot of people in the public. Well, I was responsible for filling the seats. That means I was responsible for the promotions that went online. I do have a little thank you on the program that was on all the chairs, and my name is there, but nobody will ever say, oh, wow, Elise was part of, because it's all so much behind the scenes, and so much people tend to focus only on what we see. If we don't see you right next to it, we won't. But it is. When I was in network marketing and before, I got to learn a lot from Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is responsible for 17 years as a CEO of Walt Disney. He then went on to a company called Herbalife, a network marketing company, and he took those companies to the next level. I got the pleasure of learning from this guy and collaborating with, and all I have is one picture that I've never shared on the online channels. I might share it maybe this week since we are talking about it, but I never had the need to say, oh, look, I took a picture like we do now and you have to put it on social, because that's not what I do it. I took, as you know, I take a lot of photos at all the events that I'm at, but it's normally for me and for my friends and the people that I'm with. Out of 1,000 pictures, maybe 10 end up on social media and the rest are for me. So that shows you the difference of, we all have a role to play. There are some people that truly belong out there, like the A-list celebrities, the C-level executives, the people that are the spokespeople of everything. And then you go down the chain. Of course, I love being an ambassador for a few brands. I love to share my knowledge about other people, but that doesn't mean that I have this complex of, oh, make sure that Elise gets credited. Oh, make sure that I'm the one that is out there. Because for me, what brings me joy is making sure that the value that I gave you or your company actually works. And if you're happy with that, and in that specific project, I'm supposed to be the ghost pin and be behind the scenes, then I'm happy with that. I don't need to always say, well, that's because of me. I just go behind the scenes, and my closest friends know about it, of course, but not publicly, because it is not always needed. And for me, that is huge. So yeah, the digital ghost queen comes from that, from helping these individuals that nobody can do everything on their own, especially the bigger that you get. And you know this, Dinis, as well. You are running amazing companies, but you cannot do it all on your own. You have an amazing team by your side that helps you with editing, with socials, with graphics, with many parts of your business, because us, as an individual, whether we're at the bottom, whether we're in the middle, or whether we're at the top, it's impossible to do everything on their own. So everybody needs help with something. And I think if you're happy with what you do, you will never, as they say, you will never have to work a day in your life. But that comes from understanding that you enjoy this. And the first time I actually shared that I enjoy working behind the scenes was actually with Topher White. There is a video that I am yet to release on socials. It is now a year old, really fun video with Topher White. We had finished the 5G assembly in Brussels, and we recorded videos, but I wanted to do a professional video, and it didn't end up like that. I wanted to talk about rainforest, and in the end, we're talking about Subway, the story of how I got my tripod. He's turning the questions to me, asking me about who is Elise, and then, but it was authentic, it's real, and I will release them sometime before the 31st, because you can see how much fun we're having, but at the same time, of course, we also shared some good insights about Rainforest Connection, but it was about, we're chilling out, but we still want to share something. So what are we sharing? I have no idea. And it just got us talking. And I think people sometimes forget about that, about having fun on telling the stories behind the scenes. You don't always have to be suited and booted and have the tie up to here. Sometimes you can let it loose a tiny little bit. And again, you can be professional whilst still being yourself. That's the point of diversity, and that we're not the same. Otherwise, we would just have many robots, and for that, we have artificial intelligence. So as individuals, let's continue being us, not be copycats, please. That's my biggest advice. Even when we are behind the scenes, enjoy what you do, because I do, as I said, both. I love being in front of the screen. Again, I also did acting in the past. So for me, that's natural. I'm not afraid of the camera, but I also love being behind. It's the combination of both that makes Elise be Elise and have value. When I need to be in front, I will be in front. But if I need to step back, you will not hear a peep from me.
No, congratulations, first of all, because, well, they mentioned some great case studies, some of the biggest personalities, from prime ministers to the biggest Hollywood stars. And that as well, it takes a lot of, first of all, a lot of expertise, because there's a massive responsibility to be behind these accounts, manage that, and as well keep your personal one. So the two things, and it shows as well your strength, value.
If I can interrupt you, I will give you
of course,
very quickly, only because you mentioned the prime ministers, I completely forgot. And this also is exclusive to you right now, because yeah, this is definitely not public record, but it's been enough years now, so I don't think I will get hacked now. But back in 2012, 2013, I'm sure you remember the former prime minister of Ukraine, Yulia Tymoshenko, who was imprisoned, and there was a lot of things happening with human rights, and she was imprisoned wrong. So I worked with her daughter, with Evgenia Tymoshenko, and I was actually the liaison for a lot of the media and a lot of the interviews that you saw at the Guardian, the Financial Times. Around those times, I was behind that. I still have a photo with me and Evgenia at BBC News, and it's just the two of us, because again, I was meant to be behind the scenes and liaise. But something that happened then in 2014, my emails got hacked because I was part of helping this project. And of course, a prime minister, and with everything that was happening there, the daughter's emails got hacked. And amongst those that were leaked on social records, all of a sudden came my name and some of my emails that we had exchanged. And that also was part of maybe why I think privacy became so important for me, or trust. You get many people that work with celebrities or individuals, and they're always telling who they are, or I'm working. I will only say it if I'm allowed to, and even then, I don't always have to, because privacy is extremely important. Again, as you know, if you're doing anything with government related or anything that is political, which I get involved, but not too much, then all of that is under NDAs. I will never say it, and there are many stories that will definitely be come to the grave with me. But yes, I am extremely thankful for each and all the opportunities to know that you have made an impact, or you've been a part of a good cause. Is an incredible feeling. And to have that, you don't need public recognition. But yeah, having your emails hacked, experienced, checked, please, never again. So yeah, a lot of things that happens when you are behind the scenes and the digital ghost queen.
No, that's impressive, and congratulations for all these achievements, because I think most of people, well, managing all of that is a very complex, and normally you need as well to protect yourself, like you just mentioned. So that takes me to my next question, and I hope we still have a bit of time. So in terms of one of the things we touched, but I want to go more deep on that. So you've been on the inception of what we now call influencer marketing, and from mainstream influencer marketing to B2B influencer marketing, which you've been working both. And these right now are massive industries, and both governments, business, like we just mentioned, rely more and more on personalities like you to influence their audience, and as well products, technology, and sometimes, like you mentioned, even PR, because there's people like you are sometimes much more influential than actually a lot of PR agencies that have a lot of limitations. And unfortunately, we see that even in it's funny, the series of Netflix, the what's the name, the lady in Paris. It's funny because at a certain point she's representing Emily in Paris. She's this all the stereotypes, but it's funny because, and as an influencer, she becomes more influential than all her PR agency. So I think that is not, is even mainstream is taking that serious. So I would like to hear a bit about what you've been, how you see influencer marketing, and as well the different evolutions, because I think, like we mentioned before, actually the interview, one of the challenges right now is that definitely we are relying on the platforms of Google and Facebook, which are, let's say, in every $100, they probably take $90, but they don't give anything to the influencers, which is a big, not a bit, it's a massive challenge. But at the same time, the influencers are driving their own platforms. So I would like to hear, how do you see this? And as well for young people listening to us or other influencers, how do you see this? Because you are as well a teacher and a coach, which is important as well for people listening to us.
So you're definitely right, Dinis. Influencer, as we mentioned earlier, the word influencer has evolved. And now the word influencer marketing has also been divided, because we have product influencers and we have B2B. Both you and I are more on the B2B than we are products. If you go to my Instagram page, I am not an Instagrammer. I share more of a hobby and I share some of my videos, but I am not an Instagram influencer, even though I also get Instagram offers, which I'm thinking, did you see what I do? Like, Why would I want to promote that? Like, hello, no. So there is a lot of young people now that are coming up and are, 12, 13, I want to be an influencer. Do you truly know what an influencer means? Why do you want to influence? This is the first thing you need to understand or ask yourself. And what kind of influencer do you want to be? Do you want to be a product influencer? Do you want to be a specific industry such as beauty, fitness? Do you want to get into tech gadgets? Do you want to try wearables? Do you want to get into health? Or do you want to become a B2B influencer, which is more what we call the micro influencers of business, which is people like ourselves, where we don't have 5 million followers, we don't have 10 million followers, but we do have a niched audience that are listening to B2B solutions, which is why, for example, you and I, Dinis, met at a Huawei event because we both are part of their influencer program. But in there, they don't really call you an influencer. We're called global thought leaders. In other programs, you're called a key opinion leader. So it depends on who you are. If you're too egotistical in business, I've heard people that, being honest, they hate the word influencer. If you call them influencer, be ready for the knife. They will punch you because I'm a global thought leader. I'm not an influencer. But be honest, it's the same thing. Key opinion leader, global thought leader, influencer. But what type are you? So what I am not, I will definitely, because that's not my choice, I'm not a product. I was a little bit many years ago when I started my journey, but not now. So I want the young people to truly put value. If you're sharing just for the sake of sharing, why are you doing it? Are you studying something else and do you just want free products from companies? That is also okay, but take on that role and be proud, but have a reason, find a why. So the thing is that we all know peer-to-peer recommendation works. And this is where influencer marketing for business truly works. I recently had some chats with Joe Peng, which works at BCW PR and Communications. He's the head in Asia. And we've spoken about this topic online because there seems to be a confusion as to what an influencer can do. And when brands talk, when brands have accounts and they share their solutions, we tend to tune out. Why? Because the brand is talking. The brand got paid, that's their work. But when an influencer or global thought leader, such as ourselves, we go to their events, we listen to an online webinar, we get material that we go through, dissect, and then share with our audience with our own words, people tend to pay more attention. Why? Because we didn't get paid to promote that. Yes, they might pay our hotels, they might pay to travel there, but on average, you're given independent reign. You're not paid to say, please say ABC. No, they say, hey, if you find something useful or you find something you like, feel free to share, regardless of your opinion. You could have a negative opinion and they still want you to share. Because at the end of the day, that's the point of having independent global thought leaders and influencers share our thoughts. Say that you and I, for example, Dinis, we meet up and I say, oh, Dinis, I just bought this book. This is really cool. You should get it. And then you also see the advert outside of the book. Who do you trust more? Just the book that is out there, or me that I come to you peer to peer saying, oh my God, I read this book. This is really good. These are the benefits. This is what you will learn. You should get it. Who are you going to trust more? Me or a normal advert that comes from them? Normally me, because you know me, because you trust my opinion. And this is why it's so important if you are going to be an influencer in the future, because this is now real. This is something that we can't talk about. When you and I first started, Dinis, as we mentioned, this didn't exist. We didn't have a clue that this is how we were going to turn out. But now you can truly make a career and say, I do want to be a global thought leader. So what do I need to do? Number one, get a lot of knowledge. And not knowledge about this product is great. No, truly go on websites, go on pages of the companies, find out who the C-level executives are, what are the solutions, get facts and figures, start to understand and get immersed into the project of these companies, and then share your independent thoughts as to why, for example, they will be helping society. Why is it that they are gonna be good for digital transformation? Why is artificial intelligence doing something? when you start doing those independent releases without anyone telling you, people will start paying attention to you. Brands out there that are the middleman between, in B2B, between the influencer or global thought leader and the company, they are normally watching. I was surprised when I first got into a few of the programs that I will talk to C-level later and they go, oh yeah, don't worry, it's like, we see everything you do. And I was like, but you never do a like. And I was thinking, oh yeah, because these guys are also digital ghost kings or queens that are always observing. They're watching you for a long time, making sure that you're not just doing something to impress them for 1 week, but that you're actually impact them month to month after month. I give you an example of this. Back in, what was it, 2000 and what are we now? 20, oh my God, I've lost track of years now. 2017, I connected with someone on Twitter. We followed each other for many months, and then I get this email one day to invite me to speak in Montenegro. I didn't know anyone in Montenegro that I knew. And I asked them, hey, so how did you hear about me? It would be my pleasure. Oh, so-and-so recommended you. And I'm thinking, huh? I don't know him. And then I go into my social channels and I realized that we follow each other. So this guy recommended me without even knowing me, without having exchanged a real conversation amongst us. And he was going to be at that event. And then everything turned into a joke, of course, because the person that was organizing only wanted real speakers that the people recommended them, knew them. And then he's like, but you didn't know her. How did you know if she was good or not? And then the moral of the story was that we had been following each other for months. So we knew our value. He knew what I was providing, not as a 1 week, but consistently over months, he understood who I was, my tone of voice. Will this work with our audience? Is he just a one-trick pony that only promotes when there is an event, or does he follow through after? And it was the latter. I continue to share information, whether I'm at an event or not, as long as I find something useful. And this is the difference with global thought leaders. Global thought leaders, sometimes we are hard to get in touch with, not get in touch with, but to actually pinpoint to a certain time, because sometimes we are extremely busy with what we do. But that is because we continue all the time to learn, to share, not just for one brand or one company, but as the global situation changes. Technology and digital is forever changing. So we have to adapt, and that has to reflect in our social channels. So remember earlier when I said I'm not as public as I was before, but I'm still weekly on social channels. I am still sharing my thoughts, whether it is through my own posts or by making comments on other people's posts, where I still share my independent opinions. This is what you need to consider for B2B. B2B, we are paid or we get good work because we have spent years getting the knowledge that we get. And you know this very well, Dinis. We didn't learn this in 1 month or in 1 week, or just because I woke up today and I go, oh, look, I saw the Kardashian doing this, so I also want to be an influencer. That's a very different type of influencing. As we mentioned, those are more Instagram and YouTube, even though this will also be on YouTube and stuff like that. But for B2B, we're looking at LinkedIn, Twitter, and also third-party platforms. How many articles or how many posts are you actually publishing out there? Or are you just posting? There are so many different things that come together when it comes to influencer marketing for business that the world doesn't understand, that is worth actually just doing a little check on Google. Google what it means to be, what is micro influencing, which is where B2B comes into play. How much knowledge do I need and who do I want to work with? Do I want to become more of a storyteller like I am, which I have a diverse variety of areas that I like, which all are part of digital transformation? Or do you just want to have one niche? Do you just want to focus on healthcare? Do you just want to focus on cloud computing? Would you like to focus only on VR? What do you want to be? There is a lot of thinking that needs to go before you go, I'm a global thought leader. But that's the one thing that we don't teach, Dinis. So I'm glad that you asked this question, because we tend to focus more on, yeah, just be out there and have millions of followers. And that is not the case. As I said, there is a lot more. And maybe we should do a video on just influencer marketing. is way too much to break down in just one question. We could go on for this for a lot longer.
No, I think this is actually an entire masterclass or even MBA, because I think this is actually, there's very few information about this. And I think I've been teaching in business schools, and probably I'm not teaching anymore, but I'll recommend it to some business schools. They need people like you, because it's the level of knowledge that is behind this. First, I have been teaching for 10 years, and I found almost no students that actually had this knowledge. There were a couple of exceptions that you could count as almost from one hand or two. So actually, even young people are not understanding this and the importance of this. So that brings me to my last two questions. And I have questions for more, but definitely I want to do round two. And definitely, I think there's an idea, like you just put it, to do something about the influencer marketing. I think it's a very important thing. So you've been looking at trends, like you mentioned, in terms of B2B technology, which is kind of looking at these trends, you have to, like you mentioned, have a huge knowledge and a huge research, and as well being on the top of the waves, because there's a lot of things happening. So as we speak, so 2020 has been a very crazy year, but so there's a lot of trends that are right now being accelerated. And we have a crazy year with 5G, where we've been actually involved in a lot of discussions on this. There's been even a lot of rumors and some crazy stuff. There's AI that is becoming bigger and bigger. There's all the frontier technologies, Society 5.0, that is a bit more positive vision of society, and all the digital transformation 360. So you are a completely digital guru. So what trends from all of these things do you highlight? And especially, how do you see these different things? Because we are prepared for this, but one of the things I've been finding is society is not prepared for that. And it's completely clear. So I want to hear your visions on this.
Oof, this is actually a good question, and I don't want to go on for too long again, but every question that you've had today, Dinis, literally could just be a whole video, each of them, because there is so much to speak about. But we are in a new era of transformation of social, economic, and cultural arrangements, and I feel that we need to be more creative and innovative to foster sustainable growth in business. I mean, you know this better than I, social and technological innovation is here. We cannot escape it, and we have to embrace it, because it is helping to solve some of the world's most pressing problems with new solutions, such as fair trade, distance learning. Innovation is now providing a unique opportunity to think differently about social enterprises and business engagement. And what I would like to see on these trends, we have this big buzzword, which is digital transformation. But do we actually understand how big this is? For business, of course, we can break it into three categories: customer experience, operational process transformation, and business models. And then within these three categories, we have some of the most used technologies, which are going to be huge in 2021, which are social media, which we're talking about, Internet of Things, big data, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence. What I see is that there is a huge merge in between all these technologies. There is a huge force that is shaping this, and that is the growing adoption of artificial intelligence into our society, because tech is driven by innovation, and a huge part of that is AI and robotics. So as 2021 arrives now, I see an increase in digital health, wearable technology, blockchain, which you speak a lot about, and crypto technology. Cloud technologies, I feel, are going to be huge moving forward. Remote work will permanently increase, and that can only happen when it's powered by technology. And something that we have is that we do have an anti-tech population as well that is wanting for people to cut back down on technology use. And I believe that it is all about balance at the moment and understanding what technology can do for us. Because unless you live in a remote cabin with candles somewhere, technology, power, electricity, and modernism is all around us. And we just have to embrace it. For me, part of embracing this technology is going to be because of digital health. As we mentioned, in 2019, during COVID, technology has played a huge part for the development of COVID-19 vaccines. Doctors are using telemedicine and Zoom connections to talk to patients, just like you and I are using Zoom to connect today. Healthcare, I feel, is booming when it comes to technology. It is something that you can physically see. So I think the fear that I sometimes talk about, the fear of the unknown emerging technologies, could actually maybe ease up during 2021 because they can now see the benefits. People might be a little bit more open to learning about what technology can do and what social impact may have. Because as we mentioned, the thing is that social technological impact has also been around for quite a while, but it's since the SDGs were introduced a few years ago that the world is now putting a focus on helping make a better planet to live on. So, I mean, this also has a follow-up question, Dinis, which is, how can societal technology help? We are in this world where we have all these trends. We have artificial intelligence, cloud computing, virtual reality, augmented reality, these digital technologies, cloud. But what else can we do? Earlier I spoke about rainforest connection. They are using technology to help protect the rainforest, which is crucial for climate change. We're talking about technologies now that are developing more livable and intelligent cities, guaranteed access to education, no matter where you are. Remember, we spoke about this, not everyone is lucky enough to have either money or come from money or going to a normal education. They have to do that later. And right now, technology is helping rural countries or rural areas have the access to have education, to have power, to have connectivity. Technology is giving us more access in 2021 to information and to help build business models. Remember, Dinis, I remember we had a conversation where we mentioned that because of 2020, we've had to adapt. We've had to also evolve. We now have new ideas for what? For 2021. So we all need that mindset shift in people for all of this to happen. I know that it is a slow road, but what I know is that technology is waiting for no one. We have incredible people developing solutions each day, and it is up to each of us to say yes and accept that this is our reality and just embrace it.
Yeah, I think you put it fantastically and very as well positive, because we need as well that angle of positivity, and you mentioned the SGs. So my last question, and of course I want to as well highlight your public profiles because you have a lot of different things. But so you touched the COVID-19. So COVID-19 accelerated all this digital. And I want to touch one specific area that you partly touch that is particularly important for me. So and for me, and I think for all society. So definitely with COVID-19, a lot of countries that were not even thinking to have a digital strategy or even highlighting that, mostly skyrocket to start leapfrogging and try to take this more serious. That's why we have a lot of people right now looking at this, and I'm sure they will give more work to people like us, but as well, especially as well to, there's a lack of strategy and the lack of as well attention to the risks of data and data management. And especially you mentioned your experience with being hacked, and as well this experience working with government. So one of the questions I have for you, and especially as someone that has been on the mainstream side, on the B2B, on government and big corporations, how do you see this collaboration between society? Because I think I have a kind of my personal view is that I'm divided. Okay, I have seen, sometimes I look and I see the bit of what Stanley Kubrick said, that this is our reptile virus humanity part, and then there's the humanity renaissance and ideas. So I am divided, to be honest, and I know that you're very positive, but I think it's very practical as well. Do you think these technologies, because we saw as well during this year, technology being used to create, like, for instance, a part of the United States is living in some kind of parallel reality. They don't really still, independent of the geopolitics, there are facts, and facts are facts. And even here in the UK, where both of us have been living, we have Brexit that was created artificial, independent of your political views. It's a fact. There was an act of society using precisely our tools, and the tools that you and me are experts and we love to use it, but they will use it to manipulate psychology, they will use for a lot of wrong things. So as someone that is very positive and inspiring, how do you see these things? Because it's not easy, and I think we have a responsibility as well towards tackling this more than ever. Because otherwise, we'll have, and just finishing with a quote from Yuval Noah Harari, is that we're going to have countries that are going to be colonies of other countries, which is something that always happened in history. But we have, and as well, we have, for instance, most of the corporations, like the ones that are where we use and where we're speaking, they made billions of dollars, where huge hundreds of millions of people lost all their wealth, and in some cases are in very jeopardy. So it's a big question, but I want to just your inspiring wrap up.
Yeah, this is another one. As I say, you're on a roll today. Questions. This is like, yes. But just like I mentioned earlier, you're right. We are in this new era of transformation. But I'm a little bit like you, to be honest, and this is why I was laughing, because yes, sometimes you want to believe, and even as a positive person, trust me, this is a daily thing you have to work on, because with all the negativity that we have around us, with all the changes, now it's right, now it's left, now it's left, now it's right, now it's up, now it's down, sometimes it's hard to understand what these governments are doing. And again, if the governments in every country is not truly giving you confidence, then how on earth is the society and the citizens going to believe on anything, even technology? So let's bring it then back to trust, which, as you know, I love to talk about, because collaborations, exploring synergies, all require trust. And without trust, we have nothing. So I believe for truly to move forward, we need to rebuild trust, which is one of the hardest things to do, but not impossible. The thing is that there is no standard roadmap for adoption of these technologies or digital transformation that businesses can follow. And then the countries are not truly giving you a roadmap. So when you don't have that, how can you continue? This is why we have all these different experts that are coming in and giving you their knowledge, because countries and governments are not giving you enough, because even they don't have enough knowledge. So I think we need a reset, new planning with a fresh open mindset that is willing to change and take action. You know that quote that I love to quote, Dinis, which is, it is not the most intelligent that survives or the strongest, it's the one that is able to adapt the most. Adapt means change. The first step is to put aside those preconceived feelings that we have and say yes to digital and emerging technologies that are here today. This is actually something that I don't think many people actually understand, and we have to. I personally believe that emerging technologies bring and will bring value to this new decade we have started. Is it uncertain? Yes, especially with everything that is going on. But I believe that there is this bigger merge coming, as I also mentioned, when it comes to technological use mixed with our basic human foundation. And we simply need to be bold and take a leap and stop thinking so much. I think this is a challenge that we have. We think too much, and then we put something on paper, the governments do the same thing, and then we do it all over again the following month, and then the next month, and then a year goes by, and then 2 years, and then we're exactly in the same situation on December today as we were pretty much in March at the beginning of the year. What has truly changed? Think about it. You mentioned we both live in the UK as our main base. Now we close, now we open, now we close, now we open. Now you can get inside the shop, now you cannot. Now we close flights, but you can fly if you have a business. No, you cannot do this. We are giving so many mixed signals. And then technology comes and governments are shutting down emerging technologies that are helping society. So how can you trust something that even your government doesn't when you know it's actually good? Your faith then has to be huge to say, I take a stand and I do want to do this, instead of saying, let me sit back and wait until somebody else does it. The challenge is taking action instead of just talking, Dinis. This is the biggest problem. We can all be game changers in this race if we work together towards this common goal, which is to make society better. And to make society better, we need to understand we do have technology. Technology is a tool. It is not the whole world, but it is part of our daily activities. Children now are growing up in a world that we didn't. I'm very lucky that I grew up in between both. As I mentioned, my first cell phone was at 19. So I know what analog and I know what traditional means, but I've also seen the difference in between the both. And we need to remember the next 20 years are gonna bring things that we don't even know about yet. The future of work, everything, how we're learning, distance learning, which is becoming so normal now. This is part of the future. And I believe we can make a difference. I mean, social has become an essential part of our communications world, and it will also continue to play a big part in business. So as my last words, I would say that we need to continue discovering how creativeness, technology, and innovation can help shape the future that is here now, not tomorrow. Because technically the future for us is now. We're working towards more future, but we live every day in the future. Tomorrow is today, tomorrow. The future is always the minute we open our eyes. We are living the future every second that passes by.
Well, those words are fantastic. And I think you just summarize as well the importance of the trust and the importance of creating a new narrative that is on the present, and as well with the civic conscience that we need all to exercise. So Elise, I want to thank you. Of course, I have definitely, there's the second or third one that we have to do together. And definitely I'll put the challenge special one about influencer marketing and another one about technology and trends. I probably can get more people to that, but I think I'm looking forward because it's exciting, or even a live. So I really want, I'm very grateful. So because it's been fantastic, I'm overwhelmed and a lot of things here that are coming into my mind. So just probably for our audience, because you've been very inspired, just I know that you're quite public, but just some highlights that you might want to give. You have your course, you have a lot of things that sometimes people still don't know. So feel free to promote. And there's also some of the highlights that you might want to talk for 2021 and as well end of the year.
Sure. So, well, as you know, I don't shout about me a lot all the time. You guys can definitely follow me at Elise Quevedo. All my channels are under at Elise Quevedo, which I'm sure Dinis will put the link somewhere in the description below. Yes, my first book, Creating a Kick-Ass Attitude, is available on Amazon, or feel free to DM me if you want a signed copy, as authors do. But next year, I am releasing a couple more books in digital and personal development. So there will be two different sides, one in personal development, one in digital. And yes, if you go to Udemy or the Expert Academy, you can find one of my courses on social media. It's actually a 55-minute course that gives you an overview with trends, how to get into social, some of the psychology behind it. But for me, it is not needed for you to do that. Yes, guys, follow my channel, send me feedback. That is the one thing that definitely helps me understand if things that I have shared today are useful for you. Without you, I wouldn't be here. And without Dinis, I wouldn't be here. So thank you, Dinis, and thank you to everyone that will be watching what we are sharing today.
No, I thank you, Elise. It's been a wonderful and honor, and as well very inspiring, and I'm sure everyone will love it as I've been loving every minute of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dinis.